Okay, here we go, pre-algebra class. Hopefully you have the sheet in front of you, the mixed units activity. And this is the first couple of sentences off of that worksheet if you want to read along with me. It says, sometimes we use mixed units to give a single measurement. A common example of mixed units is when we say someone's height in feet and inches. So as an example here, Kevin is about 6 feet 2 inches tall. And a lot of people will use the abbreviation here with they'll use the apostrophe on the 6 and they'll use the quotation on the 2, or a single quote and a double quote, 6 feet 2 inches. That right there, that's pretty common how you would see that abbreviated. So in case you ever see that, that's 6 feet 2 inches. But the thing to realize here, even though I'm giving you two numbers to talk about my heights, I'm giving you 6 and 2, 6 feet and 2 inches. I'm giving you two numbers. This is a single measurement, okay? And I've had a few students in the past that have struggled with it. They see the 6 feet, they see the 2 inches, and they want to treat those as two different measurements. But the thing to remember is that they go together. So to kind of give you maybe a visual of what this might look like, specifically when we're talking about someone's height. So I drew in a little line to represent my measuring stick or my measuring tape, and then a little stick figure to represent Kevin. But we might say, okay, so here, we've got maybe that's 1 foot, that's 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. And then Kevin, let's put some hair on his head so he's a little bit taller. Kevin is just a little bit above 6 feet here. So let me label that. Okay, so these on my measuring stick here, these should be evenly spaced. The 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 feet, 4 feet, all that. But if I'm 6 foot 2 inches, then I'm not 6 feet. I'm a little bit taller than 6 feet, but I'm not up to 7 feet yet. So it gives us an indication that we're somewhere in between 6 feet and 7 feet. So we are in between 6 feet and 7 feet, and more specifically, we're 2 inches past 6 feet. And just this concept of being in between, just to keep in mind other ways we've seen to represent numbers that are in between whole numbers, in between 6 feet and 7 feet, or something like that. We've seen it with decimals, where you could say like, oh, it's 3.8 feet, or 3.8 yards, or minutes, or hours, or whatever. 3.8 is in between 3 and 4. So decimals are a way to show in between. Another way to show in between is with like a fraction. Like you could say, oh, it's 10 and 1/2. So we're somewhere in between 10 and 11. So this is kind of the same idea, where we use these mixed units. We say, you're in between 6 and 7. 6 feet and then another 2 inches. So just keep that in mind as we're working on these. We're going to be in between those feet, in between whole feet, or whatever the big unit is that we're using. But mixed units, we call it mixed units because we're for one measurement we're doing feet and inches, or we could do pounds and ounces, or we could do two different units, one big and one small. So getting to where we're actually trying to do some of these problems, answer some of these questions. So it says here, going back to your worksheet now, see if you can answer the following questions involving mixed units. Question number 1, if Kevin is 6 feet 2 inches tall, how tall is he in inches only? So instead of giving feet and inches, I go, I only want inches. And there's different reasons why we might want this. And what I'm actually going to do to help us think about the problem is I'm going to draw that measuring stick that I had before. Okay, so there's my measuring stick again. So in 6 feet 2 inches, I'm going to be somewhere in between. I'm going to be like maybe right about there. There's my 6 feet 2 inches. So first thing we might want to realize to say we only want inches is that 6 feet 2 inches is the same thing as 6 feet plus 2 inches. We say you got to your 6 feet, and now we're going to add another 2 inches. So this is how we're going to think about it. When we do this problem, we're going to think about it as 6 feet plus another 2 inches. So I go, well, the 2 inches, I've got no problem with 2 inches. The question says we want inches only. I go, 2 inches, that's fine. That's already in inches. What the problem is that we've got this 6 feet here. This measurement is 6 feet. And I go, we only want inches. So we can break it down and do kind of like an intermediate question. And we can ask ourselves, just for that 6 feet, we can say 6 feet is how many inches? We can ask ourselves that. So I'm putting the 2 inches to the side for now. We'll come back to that, but for right now I'm just kind of thinking to myself, 6 feet, okay, how many inches is that? All right, and now again, you might know a shortcut or a quicker way to do this, but for me, I like to make sure that I'm doing the operations correctly. Shortcuts can be tricky, sometimes you do them wrong. So if you remember, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the conversion rate. So feet and inches, the conversion rate would be that we would have 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, or 12 inches equals 1 foot. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do. First step when we're doing these basic conversions. Next step is I'm going to create a proportion. I'm going to make a fraction on each side. And third step, the next step, whatever step I'm on, is to take the 6 feet and to say, okay, where does that go? Should that go on the left or should that go on the right? And what we've been doing, we've said, well, we put 1 foot on the left, so 6 feet needs to go on the same side. So our 6 feet, and I'll do this in orange, 6 feet should go right here. And then I don't know how many inches, so we'll use X or use question mark or leave it blank. That's what we're going to figure out. Okay, so that's my setup to figure out this question, this intermediate question. Overall, the question is 6 feet 2 inches. How many is that? Just inches. But again, this intermediate question of 6 feet is how many inches. Okay, so there's my setup. Now the work I'm going to do, we're going to cross multiply and divide. So we're going to do 6 times 12 and divide by 1. If you were doing the shortcut correctly, the shortcut would have just been 6 times 12. Remember, dividing by 1 doesn't change anything. But again, sometimes we have the wrong shortcut. So this convinces me that 6 times 12 would be the shortcut. And when we do that, we get 72. 72 inches. Okay? I'm going to take that now. I'm going to bring that back over here to where we said, okay, 6 feet 2 inches, that's the number we're given right here. And we're really saying it's 6 feet plus 2 inches. So I go, okay, well, hey, 6 feet. If you only want inches, I can replace 6 feet with 72 inches. Because they're the same. 6 feet is 72 inches. I'm going to keep the addition, I'm going to keep the plus, and then I'll keep the 2 inches, because that's inches and that's what I want. So this problem now breaks down to the 6 feet is 72 inches plus another 2 inches. 72 inches plus 2 inches, and that is going to give us a final answer of 74 inches. And there we go. That is it. That is our answer. We are done with that question. So again, just to break down kind of what we did here is, since we only wanted inches, we put the 2 inches to the side, focused on the 6 feet, changed that to inches, and then said, okay, take your 6 feet in inches, and then add the 2 extra inches that you have there. 74 inches would be the same as 6 feet 2 inches. Okay, moving on to number 2 here. It says the tallest person ever, according to a quick internet search that I did, was named Robert Wadlow. He was about 8 feet 11 inches tall, and there's a picture of him on the right, and you can see, if you can make out, there's 2 women standing on either side of him, and I think that's like a truck or a van behind him. So he's a pretty tall guy. But our question here is, how tall was he in inches only? So what I want to emphasize here, as I usually do, is that for this question, comparing this question to question number 1, we have different numbers, but it's the exact same kind of question, so it's going to be the same process. The steps we take are going to be the same. It's just that we're going to go, oh, we're not going to get 72, we're going to get a different number. We're not going to get 74 as a final answer, we're going to get a different number because we're starting with different numbers. But we have mixed units here. We're starting with feet and inches as a single measurement, and we're asked to change that to inches only. So again, the process will be exactly the same as number 1. So if you want, you might want to pause the video here, see if you can do it based on our work for number 1. See if you can figure this out. See if you can do it on your own if you want to give that a try. So if you want to pause the video, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to move on here and I will go through at least the way that I would solve this problem. So my process here, again, what I take here is I say to myself, 8 feet 11 inches is really the same thing as 8 feet plus 11 inches. Okay, we've got 8 feet and then we go another 11 inches. Somewhere between 8 feet and 9 feet. So an intermediate question I can ask myself, I can say the 11 inches is fine, it's the 8 feet that I have a problem with because the question is about inches only. So this intermediate question we can ask ourselves is that 8 feet is how many inches? We can ask ourselves that question, and it's not going to be the final answer to say 8 feet is this many inches, but it's going to help me come back here now. Okay, and let me scoot this over to the side. So 8 feet is how many inches? So again, to do this basic conversion, I'm going to start with my conversion rate, which is relating feet and inches, and for that we have, again, it's the same conversion rate as last time. It's still feet and inches, so it's still 1 foot equals 12 inches. Okay, that's my first step in answering this intermediate question of 8 feet is how many inches. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a proportion, so make fractions on each side, and then next I'm going to put the 8 feet in the appropriate spot. So the 8 feet gets put underneath the 1 foot, because they're both feet, or they're both foot, feet. English is great, but it's the same units. 1 foot, 8 feet, foot and feet are the same units. We're asking ourselves how many inches is this, so I don't know. I like to use X for my unknown. Remember, you can use a question mark, you can leave it blank, but that's our basic proportion. And now, to solve any proportion where it's 3 numbers and 1 unknown, we're going to cross multiply and divide. So we're going to do 8 times 12 and divide by 1. And again, for those that like to use the shortcut, 8 times 12 would be your shortcut, but again, this is how I remind myself of that. 8 times 12 divided by 1, and I get 96 inches. Okay, so now again, that's just the 8 feet. 8 feet is 96 inches. So when I bring that back up here, and I say, okay, the 8 feet, that's really 96 inches, plus your 11 inches. So now how many inches do we get there? Well, 96 plus 11, you can punch that into the calculator if you need to, but I'm pretty sure we come up with, 107 inches. So that would be our answer, 107 inches. So for whatever reason, if we said, yeah, great, he's a tall guy, 8 feet 11 inches tall, but for whatever reason, if we said we want his height in inches only, don't tell me how many feet and then how many extra inches, just tell me inches, we'd say, okay, well, then it's 107 inches. There you go. Okay, moving on to question number 3 now. On the flip side of your, or on the second page, I guess, of your worksheets there. Number 3 says, a twin size mattress is 39 inches wide. What is the width in feet and inches? And thing, just to make sure we know that twin size, when we say twin size, that's just a name. So don't worry about that. What we want to focus on here is 39 inches. 39 inches wide, and then we're asked about the width, which matches wide. So this is actually like the opposite of 1 and 2. 1 and 2 we started with knowing the number of feet and knowing the number of extra inches beyond those feet. Here we only have inches, and so we're asked to go the other way. So here I'm actually going to go back just to pretend like, what if we just wanted feet? Okay, overall we want feet and inches, but what if it was just feet? So what if we just wanted feet? Oops, feet. So we're probably going to get a decimal here, but let's try this out to say, okay, let's just find how many feet that is. 39 inches, how many feet is that? Again, we'll come back, we want feet and inches, but let's start with just feet. So this is a basic conversion. So again, the way that I do this is I start with my conversion rate. For this entire worksheet, we're doing feet and inches. You can do other units. You can do pounds and ounces. You can do, and I'm just blanking on other units right now, but it doesn't have to be feet and inches. It can be other things as well. But my conversion rate for feet and inches is the same as it was for the other 2 problems. 1 foot, let's make that look a little nicer. 1 foot, that doesn't look too much nicer, but 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. And then I create a proportion. make a fraction on each side, and then I say, okay, 39 inches, where am I going to put my 39 inches? It needs to match up with the 12 inches. So we've got inches on the right, the way I've written it. So 39 inches goes on the right, and then we're figuring out the number of feet. So I like to use X again, question mark, blank, however you want to represent your unknown. So this is my proportion that I'm going to use, and now I'll go to the calculator to help me with what's the value of X, how many feet are we going to get here. But cross multiplying and dividing, we're going to do 39 times 1, or 1 times 39, and then divide by 12. Okay, so punch that into your calculator. I got to pause and do that myself. Okay, so my calculator tells me it's 3.25. And that would be feet, 3.25 feet. But be careful here, and this is, if you're looking ahead to number 5, we've got this true-false statement on number 5 about 5.3 feet. Is that the same as 5.3 inches? A lot of students are going to be tempted to take that 0.25 and go, oh, that's going to be your inches. But it's not. Remember place value. Let me write this down here. Place value, that would be, if we're saying this correctly, this would be 3 and 25 hundredths. 3 and 25 hundredths of a foot. Or 3 feet and then another 25 hundredths of a foot is what we'd have there. So it's not 25 inches, or it's not 2.5 inches or anything like that. It's 25 hundredths of a foot. That's what that decimal is, okay? So don't forget that place value. That's very important, okay? So what might help me now to come back and say, okay, 3.25, that is feet only. And again, it's 3 feet and 25 hundredths of a foot. We do not have inches right now. So basically what we're saying is again, if I go over here to my measuring stick and I say, okay, we're somewhere in between 3 feet and 4 feet. 3.25 is maybe about right there. Maybe that's about 3.25. Okay? So we might say, okay, so you've got a full 3 feet. How many extra inches do you have? And there's a couple different ways you can do this. I'm gonna show you a longer way first, and then I'm gonna show you a shortcut that I actually prefer. So the longer way, but that makes a little more sense to me, is to take the whole number of feet. And kind of like we did on the last one, take the whole number of feet and say 3 feet is how many inches. Because if I can figure out how many inches 3 feet is, then I can go, well, I've got more than 3 feet. I've got 39 inches, which is a little bit more than 3 feet. So I can say, oh, this is that many inches. Well, how many more do I need to get to 39? Okay, so I'm gonna do this. And again, write out my steps here, where I'm gonna do a conversion rate. And we're still doing feet and inches, so it's still 1 foot equals 12 inches. Oops, I get the pencil there. 1 foot equals 12 inches. I'm still going to make a proportion for this, and then I'm going to put my 3 feet is going to go underneath my 1 foot. And then I don't know how many inches, that's what we're going to figure out. And when we do the cross multiplying and dividing, we're going to do 3 times 12 divided by 1, and then that's going to give us 36 inches. Okay? So over here on my measuring stick, and if you're taking the class with me and you have your blue packet, pages 3 and 4, there's some hand-drawn stuff that looks kind of like these measuring sticks a little bit, in case you're wondering what that is. But if I relabel these, instead of 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, I can go, oh, 3 feet, I can count in inches instead. So 3 feet would be 36 inches. That's what we would have there. That goes along with the 3 feet. But I can say, okay, the 3.25, that was 39 inches. Let's see where I can write that. 39 inches, and I guess we'll switch it over here onto the other side. So I can say, okay, so how much further? We're past 3 feet, we're past 36 inches, we got to get to 39 inches. So how much further do we have to go? How many extra inches do we have? And to figure that out, we would simply subtract. We would take your 39 inches, and we would subtract, whoops, pencil. We would take the 39 inches, and we would subtract the 36 inches to say you've got 3 inches left over. or 3 inches extra. Past your 3 feet, you've got 3 inches extra. So final answer here, after all this work, my final answer is that we have 3 whole feet, and then we have 3 inches left over. Okay, that's my final answer. And again, I did that. It was kind of a long way, especially the explanation. I'm going to show you a quicker way that I like. So I'm going to take away some of this work here, but or I think we'll see. Maybe I can squeeze it in. But that's your final answer: 3 feet and 3 inches together. That's your single measurement there. So the quicker way to do this is going to involve long division. Quicker way here is to do long division, and we can borrow the calculators for this, but we're not going to, calculator is going to tell us 3.25, but we're going to go no, we don't want a decimal, we want a whole number, and then we want a remainder. So the thing to realize is that your whole number is going to be how many feet, your whole number is going to be the feet, and your remainder is going to be the number of inches. So if you remember how to do your long division, overall, we're doing 39 divided by 12. This is the long division we're going to do. 39 times 1 is 39. So we're doing 39 divided by 12. Oops, 39. Let me rewrite that. 39 divided by 12. But doing this with a long division. So we would put the 12 on the outside, 39 on the inside, and then go ahead and use the calculator. The calculator tells you 3.25 when you do this division. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the whole number 3, and now we're going to pretend like we're doing long division. So if you remember the long division, 3 times 12 is 36. And then we would subtract, and this is our remainder. So it's 3 remainder 3. And there you go. 3 remainder 3. The first 3 is our whole number, that's the number of feet. The 3 that's our remainder is the leftover inches. That's how many extra inches we had that wouldn't make another foot. Okay, so that's the quick way if you wanna do it that way. And again, use the calculator. You're going to take the whole number 3, you're going to take that whole number of 3, and you're going to throw away the 0.25. You're going to say, just let me take that whole number 3, and then do it like I'm doing this long division. 3 times 12 is 36, and then we would subtract, and we go, okay, we get a remainder of 3. And this is a coincidence, it's a 3 and a 3. But that's the quicker way to do it, okay? And we got one more example, number 4, where again we're going to have different numbers than number 3, but the same process. So here we go with number 4. 4 says a full-size mattress is 54 inches wide. What is the width in feet and inches? So again, comparing this to number 3, we have different numbers, but we can use the same process. We're answering the same type of question. We're going from inches, just inches, to feet and inches. So it's very much like number 3, just different numbers here. Okay. So again, what I would do to start this is I would pretend like I'm just converting to feet. So I would start with a conversion rate. And again, this is feet and inches, so that's going to be still, again, 1 foot equals 12 inches. That's the given. That's the relationship that we know between feet and inches. Okay, and then I like to make a proportion, make fractions on each side, and then to say to myself the 54 inches has to go on the same side as the 12 inches. Inches on the right, on the top, and on the bottom. I don't know how many feet, that's what I'm going to figure out. Okay. To cross multiply and divide here, we're going to do 54 times 1 divided by 12. And again, I'm going to do it the quicker way on this one, just to wrap up here a little bit, but I know this is really just going to be 54 divided by 12. And again, for those of you that like to use the shortcut, you probably already knew that. 54 times 1 is 54. So I'm going to do this with the long division again, and just to remind myself that with the long division, we're going to have the whole number is our feet, and the remainder is the inches. Okay, how many inches we have left over, how many inches we have remaining that didn't divide nicely. So we're doing 54 divided by 12. Whoops, and I don't want a line, I want the pencil. Let me move that up over here. So 12 goes on the outside, 54 is on the inside. And again, reach for the calculator. What does the calculator tell you? When you do this on the calculator, you get 4.5. So we're going to take the whole number. We're going to take the 4, and we're going to say, okay, yeah, if it was just feet, it'd be 4.5 feet, but we want feet and inches. So we're somewhere in between. Again, if I think about that measuring stick, here's 4 feet, here's 5 feet. We're somewhere in between, 4.5. So how many inches in between are we? So doing this long division, take just the 4, throw away the 0.5, just take your whole number 4, and now pretend like you're doing long division. You would do 4 times 12, and you can use the calculator for that if you need to, but that would be 48, and then we'd subtract. 54 minus 48 gives you 6, and that's our remainder. So it'd be 4 remainder 6, and we said, okay, well, our whole number, which is 4, is going to be the feet, and the remainder 6 is going to be your inches. So the answer to this question, feet and inches, 54 inches is 4 feet, 6 inches. That's my answer. Okay. Okay, so our last question here on this activity. Number 5 is just a true or false question. 5.3 feet is the same as 5 feet 3 inches. Now this is actually false. And I'll try and explain to you why. A lot of students, I think I mentioned this earlier on number 3, a lot of students they feel like, oh yeah, 5.3 feet, that's 5 whole feet and then 3 inches left over. But I just want to remind you here, what did we have on number 3? Number 3, we said 39 inches. We came up with 3.25 feet when we were doing the work, 3.25 feet, and that was just feet. But we said when we changed that to feet and inches, it came up to 3 feet 3 inches. Okay, so I look there and I notice, that's not matching up. The 0.25 does not match up with the 3. And some students say, oh, but if you round 3.25 to the nearest tenth, then it rounds to 3.3. And yes, if 3.25 to the nearest tenth would be 3.3, but then consider what we had on number 4. Number 4, as we were doing our work, we had 54 inches we came up with, we said was 4.5 feet, but when we recalculated or we figured out the extra inches, we said that was 4 feet 6 inches. So this here definitely does not match. It's close, I'll grant you that, but the 0.5 does not match up with the 6 inches. Those are not the same number. So don't get lazy. Don't think, oh, I got 5.3 feet, that's 5 feet 3 inches. Again, think about place value. Place value. 5.3 feet is 5 whole feet. Let me just switch this to another line. It's 5 whole feet, and then it's 3/10 of a foot. That 0.3, that's the tenths place. 3 inches is not the same as 3/10, or 3/10 of a foot. Okay, so just be aware of that. That's a common mistake that a lot of people will make. They are not the same. 5.3 feet is only feet. It's 5 feet and 3/10 of a foot, and that's what we have. So those are not the same. All right. So this is on the website, so if you want to re-watch this, you can go watch this at your own pace. I'll put in the description box, I'll give you the shortcuts for the different problems, so you can skip and you can just watch the problems that you want. But I hope this was useful to you. I hope this helped you. And I hope you're able to continue on with your work here. Thanks.